And welcome in to another edition of Beyond the End Zone. We got a packed slate for y'all. The college football season is coming to an end. Obviously, Ole Miss, are they in control of their destiny to the playoffs? We're going to talk about that in just a second. But we got to talk about Mississippi State. It was a tough game against Georgia. Now they go into Missouri. Can they get a good SEC win and get that bad taste out of their mouth? Jackson State also in control of their destiny to the SWAC championship. We'll talk about that. And then Southern Miss, one of the best stories in college football, the Golden Eagles. There is a conversation out there. Could they make the playoffs? Could they actually make the playoffs? We'll break that all down and much more. Like I said, and then obviously our New Orleans Saints, they did get a big win last week. Tyler Shuck getting his first career win, but they are on a bye. So we will not be talking about our Saints this week, but we will give them some love as they did get a massive win this week. But we also have to break down and give y'all the announcement of the game of the week. We're in the playoffs, y'all. MAIS is in full swing. MHSAA, when you talk about the lower classes, have already gotten going, but we're getting into the big games with the 7A, 6A, and 5A getting started in MHSAA. So got a lot to talk about. But our game of the week, we got two game of the weeks, but we're going to present to y'all our MAIS game of the week. We were out there earlier this year when these two teams played, when MRA took on Jackson Academy. Let's go right ahead and get into it, ladies and gentlemen. What a game this is. Obviously, earlier this year, these two teams went back and forth, and we got to see what these two teams really have. Obviously, MRA was able to get out of there with the win. It was right there. I mean, that right there, the early start for them really got them into their groove. But what a game this is going to be. Obviously, MRA's high-powered offense. We talked about Jackson Academy's unbelievable defense this year. Can they make step up this game and kind of forget about that game earlier in this year? Obviously, once you're in the playoffs, it's win or go home, right? So got a massive one here, and it's going to be very special to see how this one all plays out. But this one's our game of the week in MAIS, and then we also have an MHSAA game of the week with Grenada traveling out here to Ridgeland to take on those Titans, who have been unbelievable this year. I mean, what a game, or what a season they have had. DK Wallace at quarterback, he has been really good. I got to talk to them earlier in the year, and they were confident coming into the season, and we're kind of seeing why they were. But those are our games of the week. Don't forget to tune in to our Endzone show tomorrow night at 10 p.m., of course, to get all these games. We got a massive slate. We got 11, 12 games on our slate for y'all. So tune in. We're going to have our best, and we'll also have scores, obviously, online for all those games. But I kind of previewed this was going to be a college football podcast today, or college football show, because there's so much going on right now. Do want to kind of break a little bit of news. I don't know if anybody has seen it, but the situation going on with the college football committee, it's all kind of in the air, but replacements have been made. When it comes to the chair, there was a situation out there in Baylor. I do not want to even put anything out there. We don't know what's true or what's not true, but a situation did happen where the chair of the college football committee did step down, and we got a new person taking the chair role. And the person that's, when we watch the college football ranking show, the guy that talks to Reese Davis, there's going to be a new person in there with the Baylor athletic director stepping down. So just wanted to kind of let y'all know about that interesting situation. We're going to kind of keep our eye on it and update y'all on air and online as that develops. But yes, some interesting stuff happening there. But let's get into the teams on the field, guys. Let's talk about these teams on the field, and let's talk about one team that is right in that picture. They are not. I mean, they everything's in front of them. The Ole Miss Rebels, ladies and gentlemen. This one is going to be this is an interesting game they got this week against Florida, right? You see the record, and you hear everything that's come out of Florida this season. When you talk about Billy Napier getting fired and all this stuff, I get it, but this is still an SEC game. This is two SEC opponents with a lot of talent. And that was one thing Lane Kiffin really hit on. And you'll hear in just a second about this Florida team. If you listen to all these coaches before they play Florida, all they talk about is the talent that they had. They had so much talent on this team. It just really hasn't worked out for this Florida Gators team. When you look at them, their defense is special, right? The offense has had its moments where it struggled, and hasn't looked great. Everyone was really high on DJ Lagway coming into the season, and hasn't really played out like Florida fans expected, or even SEC fans when we're coming to the season. Very high hopes for that team, and they've, especially after last year, right? I mean, they finished really hot, really kind of saved Billy Napier's job at the time, and then they just kind of haven't really put it together this year. And then you look at this Ole Miss team, right? Everything around them with Lane Kiffin and the coaching search and all these open jobs. And when you hear him talk, it's really just like he is focused on this team, and the team is focused on winning. You can really see his identity in this team, with all these distractions. I mean, I couldn't even imagine, with Lane Kiffin. I mean, we all know that he is the top guy at all these jobs, right? Especially what he's done at Ole Miss. A very interesting situation, but man, he's got this team rolling, and they look good, and they look confident, right? They look confident. And we even got to see Austin Simmons, the guy that started at quarterback earlier this year, got an injury. Trinidad Chambliss comes in, and he's done what he's done. Unbelievable what he has done. So Ole Miss fans did get to see both of their quarterbacks. Lane Kiffin did hit on that in the presser. We got two guys that could start it in a lot of places in the country, right, on a playoff team. So that's a good thing, right? Sometimes you say you got two quarterbacks, you got none. I disagree. I think they got two quarterbacks that could step in at any moment and be able to execute this offense and execute at a high level. Now, going into this Florida game, like I said, I kind of previewed it, what Lane was going to talk about. It's even though you got all this stuff, you look at the record, and I get it. But Lane Kiffin, he really hits home about the talent on this team, right? And take a quick little listen here what Lane Kiffin had to say.
They do a great job schematically, extremely well coached defense. And, they're as talented as anybody. They got elite talent on both sides of the ball. And this is the same team 2 weeks ago that's ahead of Georgia in the fourth quarter. So we got to be ready to play against a team that's really dangerous.
A team that is really dangerous. That was one of my favorite things that he said in that little soundbite right there. This is a team that wants to win. Put everything aside, right? So this is an interesting game. Ole Miss is big favorites in this one, as they should be, with everything in front of them. Obviously, Florida, we call everything. You got Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, which is an interesting game as well, obviously being the rivalry it is. But, just confidence and understanding the task at hand. That's what I'm really picking up from that. From the Ole Miss Rebels, and what a season they have had, man. Unbelievable. And the SEC, how it's transpiring. We have a situation where we could see 6 SEC teams in the college football playoff, which I know a lot of SEC haters would not like. SEC fans would probably love, because how people feel about the SEC. SEC, Big Ten, they really are the two dominant conferences, but the SEC's depth is unbelievable. I mean, for them to even for it to be a possibility to have 6 teams in is just crazy, right? And well, obviously I'll be showcasing my first college football playoff prediction. It's tough because you gotta preview these games in advance, but let's not get too much on a tangent on that, because I won't stop talking about it. Let's get into Mississippi State Bulldogs now. Obviously last week was not their best showing against the Georgia Bulldogs. Now they came out and got a touchdown early. They look confident. Kamario Taylor right here, the freshman, we could be seeing him this week. Obviously, Blake Shapen did go down with an injury in their last game against Georgia. On Monday, he did not practice. We'll be sure to keep y'all updated on if Blake Shapen will be starting. But that guy right there from Missouri, that's their third string, Matt Zollers. So you got 2 teams battling injuries, right? Next man up mentality is what I'm looking at in this game specifically. When you got these 2 teams with their leader, the guy behind center, we don't know, right? We don't know who's going to be starting right now. Zollers will be starting, for Missouri, but for Mississippi State, we do not know. So it's really a next man up mentality. Interesting game. The injuries really, I think the spread is a lot tighter because of that, and I think Mississippi State has a real shot in this game, even if Shapen does play or doesn't play. I just really, really curious about this game and the mentality of these 2 teams. Obviously, Eli Drinkwitz out there at Missouri. That's another coach that's getting a lot of buzz at these at many other schools, and curious how that all plays out as well. But Mississippi State, they really want to get back in there and get a big win. This is what Jeff Lebby had to say. it's all about mentality with this team right now. When you get that big win against Arkansas, you make the comeback, you're on top of the world, you're feeling great heading into a game against a top 5 opponent, and it just doesn't go in your favor. And he's really challenging the leaders this week when they go out there to Missouri.
We need our leaders to lead in a great way. Man, challenged them this morning. They've answered to that. Our energy as we got on the field today was workmanlike, which I love. And our guys know that we got so much out in front of us. We need to go find a way to play the best ball that we've played all year, not perfect, and go 1-0 on Saturday. And we're going to need great leadership for that to happen.
Once again, that leadership, he's going to lean on it this week, especially if his starting quarterback is out. I know a lot of Mississippi State fans have been calling for Kamario Taylor. Interesting situation here when you got a freshman. Blake Shaping, you would love for him to be able to play out the rest of his career, his senior year out there at Mississippi State. He's given so much time to this team. Obviously, injuries have plagued his Bulldog career. But interesting situation. I talked to State fans. It's, hey, who would you like to see? You get into that conversation of, would you rather put in the freshman, get him these reps heading into the next season, knowing that he's going to be your quarterback. And when you watch Kamario, I mean, he is a freaking nature, man. I mean, 6'4", 6'5", 230, 240. I mean, he is a tank when he runs the ball, and he's going to keep improving with his accuracy. That's the one little knock he gets, is the accuracy. He's got crazy arm talent. He can throw the ball very well. It's just the accuracy, timing, and all that stuff. But how do you get that? You get that in reps. So interesting situation out there. Wouldn't mind seeing the freshman get his opportunity in this game. Obviously, I know State fans, if y'all are listening, y'all probably realize that I've been a Blake Shapen defender for a very long time. Y'all probably heard me do that for a long time. When I was out there in Baylor, I really liked him. Just tough break for him in multiple times. Obviously, season-ending injury last season, and now this coming at the end of the year as he's closing out his college career. Tough. You never want to see that. Football, though, it's a part of the game. We'll see, and we'll update y'all on who will be playing, who will be starting at quarterback. Reading some of these comments right now. Oh, well, I'm glad that y'all are tuning in on YouTube as well. I appreciate that. This is we're trying to get this out much more and more to everybody. So thank y'all for tuning in, as always, to be on the End Zone. Let's keep this thing rolling. We got Jackson State now, and I know my Jackson State Tiger fans are, feeling a lot better, right? They're coming off of, when they got that loss out there in Vegas. Now that they're ringing off some wins, right, and looking like the team we expected them to. And man, when this offense is humming, and this defense is humming, it's tough. But they do have a tough test this week, against a Bethune-Cookman team that, it's kind of on their heels when you look at the conference standings, right? Jackson State, Alabama State are technically tied in their division of the SWAC conference. And obviously with Jackson State getting a win over Alabama State earlier in this year. You're seeing some of those highlights on your screen right now. They do have that edge on them, the head-to-head over them. They both have a 5-1 conference record. Bethune-Cookman comes in with a 4-2 conference record. So you're seeing that. You're seeing how important this game is, right? When you look at the conference, earlier or last week, we ran some sound from Coach T.C. Taylor, about how they can't lose, right? There's no more. You don't get any more breaks in the season after you lost to Grambling, right? And they have taken that mentality and ran with it. But we're coming into this game. What can we expect? I don't know if a lot of Jackson State fans have been watching Bethune-Cookman. Interesting team, right? They can run the ball. And this is what TC Taylor had to say when it comes to the preparation against his team. And it really comes down to the trenches. I mean, that's a lot of games, but he really believes that coming into this one.
They got a quarterback over there that can move around and throw, a dual threat guy that can run and throw the football. They got the receivers. Anytime you're playing those guys, again, like it was what I was talking about with Florida, they can run. They got a lot of team speed over there. I'm impressed with their offensive line. They got a really good offensive line group over there that plays well together. They're physical. And I think it's going to be a good test for our defensive line.
And I completely agree, right? When I come into these weeks and when we got to look at these games, I kind of watch some of the highlights and some of the tape of the team that they're taking on. And, obviously he's going to know a lot better than me being a national championship coach. But I agree with everything he said. They can run the ball. A lot of these teams in the SWAC, that's what they lean on. Obviously, Jackson State, we know what they can do running the ball when they're at their best. So I'm watching the trenches. How does Jackson State's defensive line play against their offensive line, like he highlighted, but also the other side? How does Jackson State's offensive line look against their defensive line? I kind of see a dominant performance on the offensive side of the ball for Jackson State Tigers. We'll make that prediction in just a second. Let's keep this thing rolling to our Southern Miss Golden Eagles. And how about this, Golden Eagle fans? Interesting season. In my opinion, one of the best stories in football. I am a Southern Miss alum, but this is, no bias here. This has been an unreal turnaround. They're taking on Texas State this week in a very interesting matchup. When you look at records, once again, I bounce back, to that record conversation. We talked about that with Florida. You look at the record, you say, you're going to win that game. You're going to win that game. But Texas State's got a really, really good offense, and they've been in a lot of one-score games, 4 to be exact, that just haven't gone their way, right? So, interesting team, 3-6 record this season. Obviously, Southern Miss with that 7-2 record, and the conversation has started about the college football playoffs. It is possible. I want y'all to understand this. I'm going to make this real quick because we do got to get these picks into my bracket prediction here. But technically, right, if the ACC has a team that is lower ranked in the final ranking by the College Football Committee than, say, the American Conference or the Sun Belt, right? Say the top teams in those conferences are higher ranked than in the ACC champion, right? The ACC would miss out on their bid because technically they take the top 5 conferences, the top 5 ranked conference winners. They don't take, the Power 4 is not a lock. So it is a possibility we could see 2 non-Power 5 teams in this, or obviously South Florida, stumbles at the end of this season, or other teams in that conference. If they stumble at the end of the year, Sunbelt, keeps on rolling. James Madison keeps on rolling. Southern Miss plays them in the championship game. Southern Miss could take that last spot in the group of 5. But let's talk about this game. This is what head coach Charles Huff had to say about this game. And he really went back to the records, right? He doesn't look at that. He's looking at the play on the field. This is what Coach Huff had to say about this game. Oh, excuse me. Let's pull that one back up.
I stand here and I say it's a challenge, and everybody's like, well, the record says this. But when you put on the film, you don't see records. You see explosive plays, you see tempo, you see wideouts that can run. It's not bad player, bad team. It's a team that's missed opportunities. It's a team that's been close. It's a dangerous group. We talk about appropriate fear all the time, and you got to have it for these guys. I thought our guys had the right mindset going into, last week, even though their record may have not been great. We got to go ready to play.
Exactly. Got to be ready to execute. And I am now realizing after pulling up my college football bracket, it did not did not export completely. So I am not able to show to you, but I will walk you through what I have right now. So I didn't want to put this on the screen because I did make a mistake in the graphic. But right now I do have Ohio State at number 1. And then I have Texas A&M number 2. Then I have Indiana at number 3. And then I had Alabama at number 4. Obviously 3 and 4 that can really switch depending on how that championship game goes. And then at 5, I did have Georgia handling their business for the rest of the season. They have an interesting game this week. Obviously, we're about to get into that with our predictions. And I have them taking on South Florida. Obviously, like I said, South Florida stumbles. They could, we could see a Sun Belt team get in there. And then I had Notre Dame taking on Oregon. Notre Dame at number 9, Oregon at number 8. Oregon getting by Iowa this past weekend. That was the low score. I get it. That was one of my favorite games of the entire week in the past week. Then I had BYU sneaking into the playoff. That's the part where it gets weird, right? Like, are we going to get 2 Big 12 teams in? Are we going to get 1 Big 12 team in? Obviously, you got BYU and Texas Tech. I really like Texas Tech. We could see a rematch in the championship game of that. Then I did have an ACC team swinging in. Now, we saw Miami get the higher rank this past week or this week in the CFP ranking. I think Georgia Tech can handle their business. And, even though they got Georgia at the end of the year, that is not a conference game. So, even if they lose that game, but they could win that game. That's always a pretty good game. And then I had our Ole Miss Rebels ranked at number 7. Next week, I'll make sure that we have all that ready to go. Sorry about that, y'all. All right, let's get into these college games. Obviously, we got a lot of great games this week. Ole Miss taking on Florida. Ole Miss is a 13.5-point favorite, over under 54.5. I'm really liking Ole Miss's chances in this game, specifically because of, the makeup of Ole Miss, right? I think that their offense is a perfect counter to what Florida can do. Florida likes to get after, excuse me, I hit the mic there. Florida likes to get after the quarterback, and they like to stop the run, right? But Ole Miss's run game is elite right now when Kawan Lacey's getting the rock, and then what Trinidad Chambliss can do with his legs. I just think it's a real bad matchup for that Florida defense, and I just don't think Florida's offense is going to be able to keep up with this Lane Kiffin high-powered offense. Give me Ole Miss and the cover. I know it's a game that you can't overlook, and I just think that they're fully prepared for this game. Florida has been in a lot of great games this year. Fourth quarter they were with Georgia, like Blaine said. This is a team that fights. I could see it being competitive early, but I think late Ole Miss is going to pull ahead. 14-point game, 20-point game, something like that. Mississippi State, Missouri. Obviously, that spread is saying what it's saying because we don't know who's going to start at Mississippi State. Either quarterback, I still like Mississippi State's odds in this game, man. Missouri, they really struggled against Texas A&M. Now Texas A&M they are unbelievable, so I don't want to discount them. I think they're going to do that to a lot of teams. They have done that to a lot of teams this year. I just, with the quarterback situation out there in Missouri, I really like Mississippi State's odds in this one. I know it's on the road, but give me Mississippi State. They're at least going to cover that 6.5 right now. I think they can win this game. Give me Mississippi State in that one. Bethune-Cookman and Jackson State. Obviously, I highlighted how important this game is for the SWAC conference standings. I think Jackson State's going to handle their business. We will be out there to bring y'all highlights out there at the vet. But Jackson State handles their business. Interesting game early, I think, as well. I think both teams are going to try, and it's going to take a second to get into it, but give me Jackson State handling their business. All right, Texas State, Southern Miss. Southern Miss is 3.5-point favorites in this one, 65.5 over under. That is a big, big number, y'all. It's a lot of points. That shows you what Charles Huff was saying. Great offense for Texas State. I'm very intrigued on how Southern's defense matches up with them because, man, they have been so opportunistic. They're in top of the country when it comes to turnovers. What they did last week was unreal. 6 turnovers, 5 of them being interceptions. Just absolutely insane against an Arkansas State team that people were very interested to see how they would compete against them. Southern Miss, though, handles their business out there at the Rock and keeps on rolling and keeps this unbelievable season alive and keeps those playoff hopes alive. I know, crazy to say. I know. All right, Alabama taking on Oklahoma. Very interesting matchup, in my opinion, when you look at the matchup between the Alabama's offense versus Oklahoma's defense. Alabama they can't run the ball, but they can pass the ball with anybody. Oklahoma, they stop the run. They get after the quarterback. Can they force situations where Ty Simpson has to pass the ball and they can, in these 3rd and long situations, I think they can do that. But Ty Simpson's unbelievable. I'm not picking against him. If we're talking about picking games, it's hard to pick against Ty Simpson. But this is going to be a great game. I think Oklahoma might cover. Might be a real close 1 to 2 3-point game. Alabama handles it, though, and gets the win. Georgia, Texas, massive game. Texas is, looking like the team we thought they could earlier in this year. They are looking very, very impressive recently. Arch Manning, people are not talking about it. Last 2 games, 300 passing yards. I know he's been getting a lot of hate this year for not coming out and looking like the Heisman quarterback everyone was touting him to be at the beginning of the season. Georgia, though, last week, I think they turned on a switch and they just don't know how to lose, man. I know they lost Alabama, but they fought back and nearly won that game in the second half. I think Georgia's going to handle their business in this one and keep on winning and keep their winning ways going. All right, last but not least, like I said, we had no Saints this week, but we do have Thursday Night Football. Patriots taking on the Jets. This is going to be bad, y'all. This is going to be bad. 13.5-point favorite, the Patriots. Give me the Patriots by a lot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much for tuning in to the Beyond the End Zone show. Almost said the End Zone. Tune into the End Zone show tomorrow night at 10. But thank y'all once again for tuning in. Next week, I promise we'll have my college football bracket fully made out for y'all. So tune in for that. But thank y'all for tuning in. Stay on here for if you're on the WLBT app for the 4:00 newscast. But thank y'all once again and have a great day. This has been Beyond the End Zone. I'm stumbling all over my words. This has been Beyond the End Zone. Thank y'all for joining and have a great rest of y'all's day.